I was in my quiet time this morning and I came across a very striking verse in the first letter Paul wrote to the Corinthian church. It hit me hard because as a man, I believe this verse should be our mantra. And the first thing that pops in my head is, what does it mean to act like a man? I mean, what does it mean to be a man in biblical terms? Well, 1 Corinthians 16:13 states it very clearly. Be on guard, stand firm in the faith, be courageous, and be strong. Do everything with love. So what is Paul saying here to you, men? Paul is putting all of these commands around this imperative to act like a man. So what does it look like to be more than a male, but a man? First, be on guard. Pay attention. Don't be silly. Be serious. And I'm not saying be crusty. I mean, as men, we must be ambassadors of fun and joy. I'm saying don't be silly. And you know who's silly? My 8 and 4-year-old boys. They're insane. I love them, but I would not put them in a position to lead, build, or execute anything. Men aren't silly, they're serious, full of life, full of joy, but real men know where they are going and they understand the stakes that exist in their home and in the world. Second, stand firm in the faith. This one is one of the most important. Paul's not saying stand firm in your discipline, stand firm in your abilities, your will. No, you stand firm in the finished work of Jesus Christ. Why? Because we are either prone to shame or arrogance. If we fail, here comes the shame. If we succeed, we beat our chest. Jesus. His work alone is what we stand on. And when we do this, we are grounded and we give Satan no foothold. I mean, how many of us have brought that lie that strength, not being soft, not being weak, not struggling is somehow masculine? When we stand firm in the faith, we have the strength to own our weakness. We admit our neediness. Here's the truth, my friends. We have been programmed to fight failure with one of two things: withdrawal or aggression. Who suffers when it happens? Usually our wives and children. Third, be strong and courageous. What does it mean to be strong and courageous? Keep leaning into Jesus. Keep trusting Jesus. Keep getting back up. Keep believing in the grace of God. You are going to fall short. 100% that is happening. My friends, in your failure, you will reflect the gospel if you're able to be strong in Jesus. If you're able to be courageous enough to own your failure. If you can admit your weakness. Lastly, do everything with love. The motivating force of biblical masculinity is love. I mean, think about how different this is than the macho worldly man message or the gender flat message. This is radically different. The motivating force for biblical masculinity is not physical strength. It's not what kind of job you have. It's not your bank account. It's not how far you can throw a football. It's not how scary you are when you get mad. It's not your hobbies. My friends, it's love. This is what makes the engine run. We have it twisted, and this is the lie that we've been allowing the enemy to tell us, and we have been believing it. Men, our world is suffering, and I believe it is suffering the most because of us, because we fail to own our roles. And I'm telling you today that you owe your wife, you owe your kids, you owe your family something. You need to open the Bible and find out what God has to say about you being the man. And what does this book say? Well, I'll leave you with 9 striking bullet points to meditate on, men. God says a real man commits to following a greater authority, and that's Jesus. A real man commits to sacrifice all else in the shadow of discipleship. A real man commits to determined, joyful obedience to Christ. A real man commits to spiritual discipline. A real man commits to abide in the word of truth. A real man commits to growth and production, especially spiritual fruit. A real man commits to carry out God's mission. A real man commits to love others faithfully. And lastly, a real man commits to brotherhood and community. My friends, I fail at all of these daily, but it is recognizing it and doing something about it. So what do? Men, we stop talking and we start doing. We kill our pride and we start applying this teaching to our lives. You want to be a world changer? Then be a real man.